we are. This is the final parkway that needs to be weeded. As you can see, we've been having a big huge pile of dirt here for quite some time, and Nathan is working on getting that gone. So we've got quite a lot of weeds over here. We have to turn this whole section a couple times, and right now I'm working on this part right here that is close to the lime tree that I've been asked to do. So this is my method. So I get under the weeds and I lift them up. I try and get as deep as I can until I can tell that the roots aren't there any longer. And you can tell the dirt underneath is weed free. Once you've done that for quite some time, you can work. Oh, I don't have a bucket. Oops.
Toss on the street.
My bucket? Bucket has magically appeared. Yeah, so you can see there's all these gnarly weeds here. And the soil falls away, so I keep some of the soil, but I don't want these creeping, crawling weeds that are the worst ever. So I just work at removing those from the soil, tossing them in the bucket, and then once I've done a section, I go back with the shovel again, and I do it again, and again, and again, and again, until we have no more weeds.
All right, so we're at the end of week 1 of weeding just this one last parking strip, and you know, a little bit in the backyard, but really mostly the parking strip. And this is the green can where we put all of our land waste to be picked up, and it is like a maximum capacity of how much like weight this thing can take, because there's still some dirt in there with those weeds. And then this is the de-dirtified weed pile extra that is just like on cue, on standby, waiting to go into the green can once they come in and pick it up tomorrow. And I'm gonna be honest with you, man, we got a long way to go. We barely put a dent in this thing. Here's our dirt that has been de-weedified, and this is how far we've gotten so far. I also put another little dent in over here because our foxtails were out of control on that side, and we just didn't want those seeds to spread anymore. But yeah, there's a long way to go. We're gonna do this. Weeding is our life now. Fun times. Okay, time for a little progress report here. Our mound of dirt, weed-free, genuine, fantastic dirt, is growing. And starting down here, we've gotten a pretty good way. Hello, lime tree. How's it going? All the way down to about here. So this is what I've got left to do. The beginning of the weekend, I started at this end to work my way back, and that is how far I have gotten so far. So I'm doing it row by row, and I'll show you a little more of my technique here in a second. But before I did any further weeding, I thought I'd take a look here at this gorgeous arugula bloom. I'll tell you, if this were not growing in the parkway, if this were in our yard, this would be lunch right here. This is some awesome arugula, but it's gotta go, and it is in the parkway where the dogs pee, so sorry arugula, you're not gonna be lunch. Anyway, we'll have more of it soon, I'm sure. You'd like to think that all of that weeding was enough, but it's not.
Never! Look. happens when you let the roots be here. So you have to get in and under, like so.
Under the sidewalk.
Under the sidewalk.
That's where it lives.
Hello.
Crazy.
Nasty. And then we have, after I do this, then there's the next step. Okay, so the next step is to put this vinegar solution on the weeds. This actually works best for weeds in cracks when it's sunny because it reacts with the sun. So you need the sun to help you. I'm gonna do it here on the edge because I do think it helps a little bit. This is vinegar, salt, and dish soap. Okay, so you'll see here we have a crack. So in a couple days, or even by later today, that green part right there should turn brown and shrivel and die. So I'm just gonna do this along the edge with the hope of getting all of the weeds that I just pulled. Ones that are growing up out from under the sidewalk. Oh, see, here's another crack. Really want to go big on this zone here. All right. Hopefully that'll do it.
All right, so we're not quite done with the whole parking strip weeding process as of yet. I've got a little ways to go, but I am far enough along now that I've been able to identify where all of my sprinkler heads that were pre-installed in this parkway when we bought this house are. And what they do is they're in a triangle pattern. They go up and back, on and on, down through the parkway. So I've pulled them all up. I've got 11 total, and I've basically dug them out down to where they are screwed in to the irrigation piping at the bottom. And you know what, look, if you like sprinklers, sprinklers can be cool, but I live in Southern California and we are looking for a more modern solution for our drought tolerant crops and plants. What we're going to be doing is installing a drip system, but we're going to be using this same piping, the same irrigation piping. So what I want to do is take these sprinkler heads out and replace them with a more stable, solid pipe that just comes up out of the ground and then has a threaded cap on top of it for now, so that later I can come back to that pipe if I want to put something in that area and unscrew that cap and screw on whatever fixture to whatever drip system I want to go to. Or I can just leave the cap capped if that's what I'm going for and I don't want to use that particular space. I've got 11 of these, like I said, so this is just an example. And a lot of these are old and busted. Even the ones that are not busted, like this one, are in pretty bad shape. They've been buried in dirt and they're not really functional. So it's time for them to go. So I've just taken a quick trip to my local hardware store and I've picked up 11 of these. I've picked 10-inch long pipes because I kind of want these to stick out of the ground and be identifiable, and me not having to worry about burying over the caps and knowing where they all are for the foreseeable future until we decide to either cut them back and put an elbow on them or whatever. But so I used 10-inch lengths, and they're threaded on both sides so that they can screw down into the elbow that's already installed in the ground, and so that I can screw a cap onto the end of it. I'm going to put some Teflon tape on both sides. I'm going to pre-install my caps on all 11, and then I'm going to go and unscrew my sprinkler heads and then screw these in. Oh, I'm sorry, and this is also a 1/2-inch diameter threaded pipe. So here's a good look at it. Oh, actually, this one is a, 1/2-inch by 10-inch PVC riser is what it's called. And you can get these at pretty much any hardware store. And for those of you who are uninitiated, this is Teflon tape. It comes in a package like this. It looks white, and what it does is essentially it seals the gap space between the threading and your cap or the socket that you're screwing it into. It makes a nice watertight seal. All right, we're all set. I actually got one at 12 inches because one of my pipes is a little deeper in the ground than the others, but I just want to give you a look here. This is how that should look once you've applied your Teflon tape. It's like just maybe 2 to 3 turns, depending. It's not so much that you lose your threads, but it is enough that you've got a little bit of meat to sink into when you screw that cap on or when you screw it into a socket.
Alright, so here we have our old and busted sprinkler heads. And here we have our new hotness. All set up and ready for becoming an irrigation system. It's so happy. The Parkway can feel it. I feel like the Parkway is ready to become a new thing. Anyway, it's all the way down the line except for one, because I did bust through a pipe down on the end. But let's work through that together so that you know what to do if that happens to you. Right, we're starting to look pretty good on this end too, yay! But the thing that's still a problem is this one right here. And it's kind of dark, but I think you can probably see. I busted a hole in this pipe with my shovel when I was trying to dig it out. These things happen. If this happens to you, don't panic. All you gotta do is make a quick run to the hardware store, grab a couple pieces, and we'll fix this right up lickety-split. Okay, so ideally what you're going to want is an elbow, a 90-degree piece that comes down and then over. And on this side, you want a slip joint, so that means no threading, just nice and smooth on the inside. And that is going to be 3/4 diameter, 3/4 inch diameter, to match a 3/4 inch PVC pipe, which is what I have in my ground. Now, if you've got a different pipe for your irrigation system, you want to check that first. Some people use an inch, but 3/4 is pretty standard. Unfortunately, the Home Depot did not have an elbow, an L, so I'm using a T, which runs straight through, slip to slip, at 3/4 inch PVC, and then it's got a threaded 1/2 inch connector, just like my other elbows do that are already in the ground, so that I can screw my pre-capped rod right into it when it's all set. So what I'm going to do is use this T in place of an elbow. I'm going to cut a little length of pipe here, and I'm going to use a 3/4 inch cap to just cap it off so that that end actually is closed and doesn't go anywhere. And I'm kind of making my own elbow out of a T because my hardware store just did not have a 1/2 inch threaded to 3/4 inch slip elbow in stock. They had an empty box staring me in the face and laughing at me. So I'm making my own. Here we go. You can cut PVC pipe with pretty much anything. You can use a jigsaw. You can use a chop saw, but I would be very delicate with it. What I actually like to use is a pair of garden trimmers. I like these ones with the titanium coated tip and then the plastic on the other side. Nice wide platform for grabbing and then slicing, and it works really well. And you can take your time and like slice it really pretty cleanly and at a good angle. So once you have your piece cut, what I need to do is put that in here and put the cap on the other end. And PVC glue comes in a couple of different varieties. Some of it you're going to want to get a 2-part solution depending on the mix, and in which case you would prime both edges on the inside here and on the edges of the pipe and on the inside here before you apply the glue to put everything together. But I've got Christie's Red Hot Blue Glue, which actually doesn't require a primer for a PVC bond. It works pretty well, so I'm just going to go ahead and use this to assemble my pieces together. You want to have a rag on standby because this is a messy job, and as soon as you put everything together, you're going to want to wipe the edges down so that it doesn't go everywhere and look like a mess. Speaking of a bit of a mess, I made one, but whatever, it's all sealed up and ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and screw my pipe in here. I've got my PVC glue ready, so I can go ahead and coat the inside, lop the end of that pipe off with the existing sprinkler head on it, and just slide this right on with my pre-capped end facing up, and we'll be golden. All right, there we go, good as new. Time to bury this, do a little Zen garden rake work to smooth everything out, and then it's time to move forward. And here she is, in her giant Zen garden, life-sized. The very first thing I ever built for my wife when we first met was a little Zen garden with 2 different colors of sand and all kinds of river rocks and sticks and things from where she grew up in the...
From all over California.
It was pretty awesome. We'll have to pull that out and put it on camera one day, but here she is still Zen gardening. After all these years. That's the one that I love. Okay, so the next step, now that we've Zen gardened out our Parkway, is to put down
fabric, some to keep the weeds away. So we've got this garden fabric, and what you're going to need is a bunch of fabric staples to pin the fabric down into the soil. And if you don't have these, don't go out and buy them. Just go into your closet and find some old coat hangers. What you're going to need are a pair of snips, something like that, and a pair of pliers, something like this. And you can bend these right into shape. Make a bunch of them.
Okay, it's time for what I think is one of the fun parts of this project. And we have this super thick commercial grade landscape fabric. This is not the subpar inferior stuff that you find at like Home Depot or other garden stores. This is extra thick. I can't remember the thickness, but I ordered it online. I had a little piece left over from one of the other Parkways that I'm using here. Have to cut a slit for this guy, and then we're using our clips, just get it pushed in there a bit, get it started with my hands. I should probably be wearing gloves. That's okay. Okay, I'm doing a bad job for camera. There we go. And then I can use the mallet to get it in the rest of the way, and that just helps it be secured down, stay down. There we go. Not perfect, but it's not going to be perfect around this thing. That's okay. Okay, and then the fun part. Hey! Alright, and so I'll just tack this down every so often, and anywhere that there's a split. That's it. Okay, a couple of other things I forgot to mention. I have pre-dug some holes, as you can see there, for our plants that are going to go in. So I also want to just make a slit where that is, that hole. So that I can then cut a hole and I'll cut around for the plants to go in. So I'll do that as well. Okay, so we are at our next stage, which is my favorite stage, which is planting the plants. Yay! So we cut around and did all that, and now I am putting the plants in, and that's basically all it is. Some of them will need to be amended, the soil. This one does not, because it was growing in the same kind of soil or something very similar, because I knew I was going to put it here. So yeah, this is pretty easy, just planting them using the same dirt, and that's it. So we will see you after everything else is planted.
All right, our first plants are planted, and we have started by putting down our crappiest chip pebbles, and we're going to progress to our pea pebbles and then to our larger rocks until it's all blended in, and it looks like magic. Here we go.
Hello. Okay, so we're doing the most fun part, I think, which is putting the gravel on. And we have several different types of gravel that we've had for quite some time when we do the other parkways, and other gravels that have come to us by the gravel ferry. And we're mixing them together to try and make it look cohesive. So right now it's not really mixed together. We just dumped everything. But we're going to mix it in, and it's going to look pretty. Yeah, and all our plants are in, so that's super exciting.
Phase 1, planted, graveled, watered. Happy wife, happy life. There she is, hard at work, planting.
Well, hello. We're amending the dirt with some compost and some amend, which is a potting blend. It's not a potting blend, but it's a blend dirt for amending soils, such as this clay soil, for our geranium and lavender.
We also put in our pavers. This episode is sponsored by Revive. I'm just kidding, but Revive kombucha.
Yeah.
Drink it. It's good.
They can sponsor us.
No sponsorship though.
I'm
for
their
real.
biggest fan.
Say it again.
I'm their biggest fan.
There we go. You hear that, Revive Kombucha? Sponsor us.
Ginger lime all the time.
Sponsor our Parkway. To be continued.
Pretty cool.
Look at how badass my wife is.
Hi. I am doing the weeds.
She's digging the... No, she's not doing weeds. She's digging weeds out of underneath the sidewalk. Underneath the
This
sidewalk.
section is done already, but look, there's always more. So, here's some. Well, that's not a very satisfying section, but there is a satisfying section right here if you want to see how it's done.
This woman is a weed killing machine. Seriously badass. Will not stop till the job is done. Still got a smile on her face somehow. Who knows how.
Thanks.
All right, we're doing this. We've actually reached a really cool section here that I'm super proud of. Let's just ignore the fact that the fairy tree needs some serious love and attention. We'll have a fairy tree day at some point. We'll get to that. But what I want to talk about is the transition point. So if you've been following our journey here, you'll know that down there we've got gravel in our back parkway, and that gravel extends. And we'll soon blanket that tree all the way to this paver stone pathway where we transition to mulch. And look at that transition. Isn't that clean and pretty? I'm very pleased, if you can't tell. So the mulch will continue all the way down this section so that it matches our front parkway. Cool stuff. Can you hear the bees? There's like 100 bees.
There's more than 100. There's hundreds.
I keep thinking I hear a drone flying overhead, and I'm looking up, and it's actually just hundreds of bees loving our tree. Our acacia tree that I call an echinacea tree. Yay, bees. So many bees. Bees in our garden. Hi, little bee. Yeah, you guys are cool. They love this Pride of Madeira. So do I, actually. You guys might remember that we replaced the juniper bush with this awesome fence here, and look at what has taken its place. Our neighbors are amazing. Their flower bed looks fantastic. Just so much better.
It's official! We have now removed all of the horrible weeds from all 3 of our parking strips. Hallelujah! Yay! Okay, so it's still a work in progress. I still want to put some more plants in, but as you can see, we have gravel down and we have mulch down, and we no longer have those nasty, horrible weeds. There's a few around the edges, but we'll get rid of those. We've got dirt ready to go for people to take for free. And here are the plants that we've installed so far. We've got a Cape Aloe and some other really cool looking succulent that I don't know the name of, but it turns out really cool. This is a Salvia. I'm really hoping it'll get nice and big, this purple, beautiful bush. This is a rescue plant of a bunch of different succulents, aeoniums, that I got from someone who was mistreating it. And these are these really cool fuzzy guys. I don't know their name as well, but they're one of my favorites. And over here we have a volunteer lavender. So I'm hoping that lavender will take off. Our lime tree, which we planted last year, is doing beautifully. Yeah, so 1 year that we've had this tree, and I'm really excited about how well it's doing. I love limes. And then we have a geranium. And then we have another lavender. And this is where the gravel ends because we only had so much gravel. I'm just happy that we made it this far. We have a path that defines the two spaces. So this is the middle parkway. One of our parkways is full gravel, the other is full mulch, and this one is half and half, and we really like that idea. So we've got our pathway, and then here I have some harlequin flower bulbs that obviously are underground at this point in time, but those will be very pretty, and I'm hoping to plant more bulbs here and other flowers that can be under the shade of our beautiful fairy tree. It's actually an acacia tree. The bees love it. We also do, and so do the fairies who have made a home here. They've actually they've decorated for Beltane, which is this weekend. Isn't it showing up? Well, maybe they're just being a little bit shy, so we might have to check in on them later. There they are. Fairies have a pretty sweet landscaping design as well. They have a pool. We don't quite have our pool finished yet, but they're a step ahead of us here with their pool. However, they still have some construction to do on their deck. They've been adding pieces. And over here to the left of the fairy tree is a new succulent that was actually a gift from one of our neighbors. So that's very sweet. She brought that over today, so we'll see how that likes living in this area. I plan to plant something else in this blank space, but this next plant here is a sweet pea bush. If you come over on this side, you can see all its cute little flowers. And we actually have another one of these in our front parkway, which I'll show you in a minute. These are great. Birds, bees, love them. And here, something very exciting, is a Pride of Madeira. Look how tiny it is. Well, we have learned that these guys don't stay tiny for long. I was actually worried that it wouldn't do well in this climate because it came from Northern California. But as you can see, this Pride of Madeira that we planted last year, 1 year ago almost exactly, was that size. And it is now enormous. And we have to cut it back, but it has these beautiful purple flower spikes that the bees and I both love. Now, I know we've shown this parkway before, but we wanted to show the growth after 1 year. Our poppies are going to seed. We have some wildflowers and poppies. They're going to seed, so they're not super exciting. But there is a little guy hiding underneath that is a star cluster pentas, and it has cute little star-shaped flowers on it when it blooms. I don't think you can see it. You have to go around the other way, but that's okay. You've probably seen those in our last video. Over here we have oregano, naked ladies, who are another type of bulb. They're starting to die back, and in the end of summer they will shoot up pink flowers with no leaves, hence the name naked ladies. They're actually Belladonna amaryllis is the real name. Over here, our tulip magnolia, saucer magnolia ostara is actually in the shade tent that we've built for her because we get these scorching summers, so we've got to be really careful. So she's got a shade tent going on. Around her is lavender. On the ground is woolly thyme. And to the left are a bunch of different calendula pot marigolds in yellow and orange, and an Armeria Daydream Sea Thrift. I love those, they're so pretty. A geranium, a ribwort plantain from Northern California, and here's that sweet pea bush I was talking about, also known as a butterfly bush to some, has a bunch of different names. I'm not sure of the scientific name. These are New York Asters. They have yet to bloom. They will be purple flowers in the summer. And here is our pride of the Pride of Madeiras, who has just started to bloom this week, and we're expecting more flower spikes. The bees are going crazy for this one. Can you see them? All over this guy. Yep, 1 year old. I've already cut it back a couple times. But what's great about it is that it provides shade from the western setting sun, which is very harsh, for this rose bush, this white geranium, and back behind these guys is a foxtail fern. Hiding. Over on this side, we have a more drought tolerant type of landscape with some succulents, a jade, another Cape Aloe. You can see what it looks like when it's blooming. I planted that Cape Aloe in our third Parkway that I showed you first. Behind it, a geranium, more calendulas that are starting to go to seed, and sticks on fire, surrounded by desert apple rose ground cover. And last but certainly not least is Parkway number 3, which really was Parkway number 1. This is the first Parkway that we started with, and it's amazing the amount of growth that you can see. This was 2 years ago that we planted all this stuff. However, this tree here in the front is only 1 year old. This is Beltane. He was planted 1 year ago today, or a couple days from now, on Beltane. And he still has some of his bows. 2 years ago. 2 years ago. 2 years. 2 years old. Happy birthday, Beltane. Here in the front, we have some rock purslane with these awesome flowers. It's getting to be sunset, so they're starting to close up. In the middle of the day, they open wide, so they're opening and closing all the time. This is super, super drought tolerant and beautiful, and it just goes crazy. These flowers on the end have also started to close up for the night. They open up really pretty little yellow wildflowers that I let self-seed. I saw them last year and I thought, you are so cute. So I let them grow this year. Some more succulents that I harvested from a person's front yard who had really cool succulents all over, and I went and I knocked on their door pre-COVID and I said, I'm sorry to bother you, but would you mind, I just love your succulents. Where did you get them? What kind are they? She says, I have no idea, but you're welcome to take a few cuttings. So I did, and from them I have a lot of great succulents. This lavender plant is off the hook, and the bees are all about it. This might be their favorite lavender. They love all our lavender plants, but this one is just crazy. Up here you can see them flying all over the place. They're so great. So Beltane, you've already been introduced, but is a 3-trunk silver birch. Here are more of these succulents that I have on the end. There's a little baby geranium. This one just got planted this year. There was a geranium in this area that was big and huge, but it had a problem and had to be removed. Unfortunately, it didn't make it. So this is its replacement. Here we've got a jade plant, which is enormous. You should see the trunk on this guy. And hiding behind is a striped Agave Americana. Now, if my husband would step out into the street, you could see the magnificence of this gigantic olive tree. It's enormous. This is Oliver. Oliver was one of the 2 olive trees that were about this tall at our wedding 4 years ago. And Oliver was planted here 3 years ago and has completely thrived, and we're very, very happy. And has also provided us with olives. So last year we had our first olive harvest, and that was a lot of fun. Over here we have our enormous sticks on fire plant, which I harvested from a cutting probably about this big, like just a little baby from somewhere. I'm always picking up plants, and put it in a pot and had it for a while, and now it's enormous. If you go around to the other side, you can see there's a bunch of succulents there along the bottom. As well as some succulents to the left and at the foot of Oliver. We've got elephant bush, I think it's called, or elephant plant, something like that, which just goes crazy. Like, it's super drought tolerant. I constantly have to cut it back. And moving on, we have our two big, giant aloe plants, which are constantly giving me babies. They've actually had 3 spikes of triple flower spikes. 1, 2, 3. They've each had 3 spikes. It's pretty amazing. And they're constantly giving me babies, which is cool. This is a cactus that I got from, it fell off of a giant cactus at my yoga studio, and it had a bloom, but it was 100 degrees this week and it got burned. I'm hoping it will revive, but there's another bloom coming somewhere on this guy. So we'll have another bloom, even though this one got burned. That's the trouble with where we live. The climate is very erratic and it does get scorching before the plants are ready. Next, we have this amazing kangaroo paw. I have never seen such a beautiful kangaroo paw. Look at these little kangaroo paws on this guy. They are so cute, and it's red, and it's so happy in its home. Next door, we have another stripy Agave Americana. And this is Jupiter's beard, which is a beautiful wildflower. Super drought tolerant. It will take over. It could be considered invasive in some areas. So you just gotta watch out, make sure that you're pruning with that. And at the end is our massive blue agave. I can't wait for this one to have a spike and to see how tall it gets. So,
What about on the other side?
the hummingbird.
Hello, little hummy.
Hi. Yeah, you're welcome to have some nectar from these aloes. Everybody loves these blooms. The birds, the bees, the hummingbirds. Yeah, you're so sweet. Oh, go ahead. There you go. Is it good? The bees were all about this earlier, and now this hummingbird has decided to be super into it. Or she. I believe that's a female. Okay, we'll leave you be. This is our Parkway. Oh, of course we have our passion fruit vine, which comes from the backyard, and you would not believe this monster. I can't even explain the magnitude. This is the overflow from the backyard. The vine itself is halfway in the middle of our backyard where it's coming from. So yeah, this is pretty massive and amazing, and we love it. But yeah, those are our parkways. So hope you enjoyed this tour.